Hello and welcome to today's flight. Today we're doing something a little bit different in the sim world. I decided to take on helicopter flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. The reason for that is my wife surprisingly expressed an interest in me building her a simulator, and she specifically wanted to fly helicopters. So that's not something I had ever done, but now I needed to set up the simulator and learn how to fly them so that we could together go over all of the nuances of helicopter flight. I'll start by saying it is not easy. For whatever reason, I did a lot of research and came up with the Cowansim 500E helicopter. It is nimble, it is fast, and it's like a stallion trying to ride a wild horse, for those who are not familiar with flying helicopters like me. This video is me flying from Boeing Field into downtown Seattle. It has some beautiful enhanced scenery that I thought would be interesting for the purposes of making this video. So I'm going to take off from Boeing Field, fly downtown Seattle. We're going to go to the Space Needle. I'm going to land in one of the two stadiums there where the Seattle Mariners play, and come back to Boeing Field. So I thought it would be fun. And let me say that my skills at the helicopter will probably be, or lack thereof, will be probably very evident in the video as you watch it, particularly when it comes to transitioning from forward flight to a hover and landing. I take it quite slow because I want to make sure that I get it right, and I certainly don't get it right every time. So anyway, here's the video of my first flight with the Cowansim 500E helicopter in downtown Seattle. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so here we are on the ground inside of this hangar at Boeing Field. Got the aircraft obviously started running. This isn't about going through the startup procedures, which, by the way, are quite simple for this helicopter. May not be easy to fly, but starting is certainly, there's not a whole lot of challenge involved in that. So we're getting ready to take off here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in a hover, and let's go down the taxiway here at a low and slow hover. Here you can see the scenery. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator Orbix scenery, enhanced scenery for Boeing Field. I also have enhanced scenery for downtown Seattle. And I noticed that it puts this enhanced scenery with MSFS 2020 puts quite a strain on the processor that I'm using for the simulator that I flew this helicopter in. So there might be a little bit of screen staggering, a little bit of stutter here and there. But so yeah, let's take it down the end of the taxiway here. I'm going to keep it low. There's a simulator AI aircraft coming and going from Boeing Field, so I'm going to keep it well below their flight path. And there you can see just over the console there, you can see the Seattle Skyline. So we're going to make a slight right turn here, and let's head over. I think I'll just go right to the Space Needle. And as I mentioned in the intro, here's one of the things that I'm still struggling with, is transitioning from forward flight, particularly when you have a fair amount of speed going. Transitioning from that into a hover over the spot that you want to initiate the hover. So that's something I'm still really working on. But it's a beautiful machine, and I have everything mapped as if it were real world. So I'm using a cyclic, a collective, and I have torque pedals. All of that stuff is working as it would in the real aircraft. It feels like I'm getting a little bit of stutter there, and hopefully that'll resolve itself here in a little bit as it sort of catches up. The processor catches up. So there we go. All right, so that looks okay. Yep. So there's the Skyline in the distance, and we're making a beeline for the Space Needle. That shouldn't take us too long to get there. It's only a few miles, maybe about 5 nautical miles from our present position. And yeah, we're doing a pretty decent clip over the ground here. I don't want to get it going too fast again, because it's the challenge of transitioning into a hover. You know, once you get to where you want to initiate your hover. So everything looks very, very realistic. I have flown into Boeing Field in a real-world airplane, both directions, and I have taken video footage over all of the terrain, including the stadiums and the Seattle Skyline. So It's very, very realistic. It's quite amazing to me. You know, sometimes you have to do a double take and wonder whether you're in the real aircraft over the actual terrain or in a simulator. So that's pretty cool to me. Yep, so here we are making our way. Still not a whole lot of time and distance to go before we get to the Space Needle. But I do want you to appreciate a lot of the graphics down below our helicopter here. Off to the left, you have the canal with all of the port facilities, and that's all quite accurately rendered when compared to the real world aircraft. I'm going to pop outside the helicopter here. I'm not going to spend too long outside because as you can see, as soon as you do that, it gets a little bit out of control. I do have trims set up in here which are helpful, but the bottom line is flying helicopters, in my experience, my limited experience, is a high workload. It's constant inputs from the cyclic and the collective and the torque pedals to keep it particularly straight and level flight. It likes to jump around, likes to climb and descend. It's almost like like I said earlier, a wild horse. And if you let off the reins in a wild horse, it's going to take off on you. So that's no exception here. So there's the beautiful skyline, and coming up here to the waterfront area, to the Pier 52, and which I have flown over in the real world aircraft and got some beautiful 4K footage down below. Pretty soon here we're going to come to the Ferris wheel and some of the waterfront stuff that really makes Seattle quite a beautiful place. The skyline is quite beautiful. Here I probably got a little slower than I want to. So I'm going to go nose down, add a little bit of collective, and try to get a little bit more forward speed as we make our way over to this Space Needle. And there you can see it, probably about another couple of minutes. Again, this is the full video of the flight, so until we get back to Boeing Field, I'm not going to stop it. So, yeah, there's that beautiful skyline off to the right, and I think there's a helipad on one of those buildings, which I may or may not try to land at it. It would be a good challenge for me, for my limited experience, to land on a helipad and on top of a building, particularly if there's wind. Right now it's actually real world weather set right now, which 95% of my flying is real world weather, and it's a beautiful day here. I only live about 30 nautical miles as the crow flies from downtown Seattle, so my real world weather at my home airport is going to be the same pretty much as Seattle. There's the Space Needle, and so yeah, I'm struggling to. What I want to do is keep forward speed until just the right time, and then put it into a hover. I'd like to, when I get to the Space Needle, what I want to do is orbit with the forward view. So that's going to require torque pedal input and collective input, where I'm making lateral movements with the helicopter and compensating with torque to keep the helicopter pointed forward. That's something I have been practicing, and hopefully it'll work out here on the Space Needle. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit slower than I want to. This is something, again, I'm kind of struggling with. So I'm going to nose down here a little bit, add a little bit of collective, which is essentially just changing the pitch of all the blades of the helicopter to create more or less lift depending on your collective settings. So now let's see if I can't get this a little bit closer without going too fast. Obviously, you certainly don't want to run into the Space Needle, and I don't want to overshoot it. So once again, I'm nosing down a little bit using my cyclic, and hopefully I can sort of get this thing into a hover and get it stopped before it runs into the building. So the challenge here is going to be once I get it in the hover where I want it. So I'm pulling back on the cyclic, reducing lift on the collective. So pretty much, all right, there, got it stopped pretty much. I want it closer though. Let's see if we can't get it a little bit closer to the Space Needle, and then we'll orbit it and try to keep a forward view as I orbit around it, and then we'll hightail it back toward Boeing Field. But I do want to stop and try to land in one of the two, maybe both stadiums. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna handle that as I make my way back, but I do want to get into one of the stadiums and check out the scenery. So there you see the Space Needle right now. So I'm giving it left cyclic to create lateral movement, but I also want the helicopter to be pointing forward, right? So I'm adding opposite torque on the torque pedals to keep the helicopter pointed forward. So let's go ahead and kind of wrap it around the Space Needle here. So there you see some of the enhanced graphics. It's pretty cool. There's people up in there, not moving, but they're static. But it's pretty cool that they have people in there. And then you can also see they have, looks like plexiglass around it, which is very realistic. It's been a long time since I've been to the Space Needle. I've only been there once, but the one time I went there, that's kind of what I remember. They actually had a restaurant in there, which was cool. I'm not sure if they still do. All right, so yeah, let's just try to keep it nice and steady. I may be moving closer and further away from. That's just a lack of skill in the helicopter control. But yeah, so I have to say I'm more or less satisfied given my limited skills here at my orbit around the Space Needle. And I'm trying to keep it interesting here at the same time. Oh, there it's getting away from me a little bit, probably backing up. I want to get a little bit closer. I'm going to just kind of, so there I just wanted to switch there to outside views, sort of. I don't want to spend too much time out there though, because I'll lose control of the aircraft. All right, so I'm going to peel off here. We've almost made a full circuit. Let's dip down a little bit, kind of fly through the downtown area without hitting any buildings, hopefully. I think there's a helipad on that. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit faster than I want to here, so let me try to get this thing stabilized here as I try to talk through this. Yeah, we're doing over 100 knots, and boy. All right. Let me try to get this thing slowed down a little bit. Like I said, it's a Stallion, and you really have to maintain constant control. Let me get. I want to hit that building. Let's go ahead and thread the needle here. Yeah, I got to get this slowed down. That's all right. Okay, the stadiums are over here. I have flown over those in the real world. They're really cool. And I think from what I have seen, they've done a really good job modeling these. And okay, there we go. That's CenturyLink Field. I think what I'll do here is I'm just gonna, I want to get down there and look at the clock and their signage on the clock there to see how real world that is. I have been to CenturyLink Stadium a couple of times for football games. Yeah, let's get down in there. All right, I got it slowed down. I'm just gonna kind of keep my forward movement here tame so that I don't overshoot. And I think I'm going to descend down here through the to the right side of that clock. Let's see if we can't do what we did at the Space Needle. So I'm going to kind of rotate around this this clock. I don't want to get too close, and I'm putting some opposite input on the torque pedals to keep the helicopter pointed forward. It's pretty cool. Someone put a lot of time and effort into putting together this. I don't take this for granted. There's a lot of work that goes into creating this scenery. There it is, CenturyLink Field. A little beer advertisement there. All right, now we're going to head over to Mariner Stadium. So I'm going to go ahead and make that transition. I'll bring the helicopter down here. Actually, why not bring it in for a landing? All right, so I'm backing up here because there's stadium seats. Obviously, I want to land in those. Try to bring it down slow here so I don't slam it into the field. Yep, that was a pretty hard landing. Not happy with that. It's not a crash, but it certainly wasn't comfortable for my passengers, you all included. All right, so let's leave here. That was fun. Need work on the landing. That's one of the many things that I need to practice, and lots of practice. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to apply torque pedal here, and just pivot the aircraft around on its yaw axis. Actually, you see that building? Like that rectangular black square rectangular building there? I think there's a helipad on that. Before I head over to the stadium, I think I might try to land on that guy. And hopefully this video isn't getting too boring for you, but it's fun for me, and you could always kind of zip to the end of it or whatever. But I do want to land on that. Yeah, there's a helipad on top of that guy. So once again, I think I transitioned into a hover a little bit too early. Some of that is timidness because of lack of experience on the control. So let's get it pointed at the helipad on that building, and we'll just slowly move it forward. So I'm advancing the cyclic. With minimal torque on the engine. So, okay, we don't want to overshoot. Pull it back on the cyclic. I want to reduce my forward speed. Now, someone who's really good at this would have probably already had it landed, but I'm going to exercise caution here, so I don't want to crash this thing in my first video in Seattle. All right, so X marks the spot. Let's see if we can't get lined up nicely on there. All right, a little bit of collective to reduce the sink rate. But not too fast, not too fast. I don't want to land like I did in the stadium. That wasn't fun. It wouldn't be fun for you guys if you were on board. So, right, let's get it a little bit more forward. Slowly, 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 slowly down. Okay, okay. All right, there it is. Not exactly on the middle of the X, but it's on the helipad. That's a little bit of an outside view I thought you might appreciate. All right, let's take off from here and let's land in the Mariners Stadium, and then we'll take it back to Boeing Field. So as I said, this is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I do have 2024 on my computer, but frankly, I'm going to wait. I'm going to dive this thing down here. I don't want to get too much speed. I don't want to get too herky-jerky. Let's fly down the canal. I want to keep it at low altitude. Maybe let's keep it around 100 feet, or maybe even less if I can do that without crashing. As you can see, it's dead calm today. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. There's some of the port facilities, some of the loading cranes. As I started to say that, I have 2024, but it's kind of buggy, honestly, and there's not a lot of aircraft that I have in my inventory that look good or fly well in 2024. So it's just sitting on my SSD drive, unused. 2020, they've worked out a lot of the bugs over the last several years and refined it quite nicely. So that's pretty much all I fly right now. I noticed some sound glitches in the sim. I think that's due to I think my processor's kind of being overwhelmed with all of this detailed scenery. But let's keep it below the cranes. Yeah, we're doing a pretty good clip here down this canal. Whoop, another crane there, cargo ship to the right, shipping containers on it. Now, all this stuff is modeled identically to what you see in the real world. I'm keeping it low here. We're right about 100 feet. Maybe I'm going to see if I can, I don't want to go too much lower. I want to keep it as smooth as I can. So the idea here is I'm going to fly down the canal as we make our way southbound, and I'll pop up and head back over to Boeing Field. There's some nice traffic, nicely modeled there on that bridge. I think they're all speeding, every one of them. All right, so yeah, there's nice trees and foliage, and don't get too close to that ship. All right. Pretty soon here, I'm gonna go ahead and pop up and head over to Boeing Field, which is just off the front left side of the helicopter. Yeah, right at 100 feet, pretty much. Like I said earlier, flying these, I think probably helicopters in general, but particularly there's a quick view outside. I thought I'd flip-flop for you. But anyway, it's It requires constant input, and there's no autopilot on this, and most helicopters, frankly, don't have them unless they're very, very advanced. So you don't get the leisure of putting it on autopilot. Yeah, so you know it's constant work. Although you do have to use your trims to relieve some of the control inputs. For this flight, though, I didn't really trim anything because there was really no need to, since I'm constantly maneuvering and that sort of thing. So. Yep, there's Boeing Field. There's some AI traffic just in front of us there. So I want to fly over that same taxiway, and I'd like to land it at the same hangar. I'm going to try to get the helicopter inside the hangar, which obviously not something you would do in real world, but I'd like to, again, I'm sort of pushing the envelope here a little bit on my limited skill level. I'm going a little bit too fast here. You wouldn't want to fly this fast over a taxiway. I'm going to try to get it slowed down here. So again, I'm pulling back on the cyclic and pushing forward on the collectives to reduce some of that lift, take out some of the energy. All right, so now we're slowing down. My challenge is I tend to slow down too much, but so I want to keep some forward movement, keep it at a steady altitude above that taxiway here. That's comfortable for me if I can maintain this. And there you see I'm going to call them tent hangars. They're in the distance. They exist in real world. Those guys are actually there. So I'm going to try to put it inside one of those two tent hangars. So let's see if there's an aircraft. Sometimes they pop up inside of those guys. And yeah, okay. So I have my hangar picked out. So the thought process here is I want to bring it into a hover just in front and then laterally maneuver the helicopter inside and then apply some torque pedal to align it with the hangar and then bring it down for a landing. So, all right, here we go. Looks like they have an aircraft, the first one, so we're going to go for the second one. Look at the aircraft and how well they're modeled on the ground. So realistic, so impressive. All right. So here we come, hangar number 2, I'll call you. So I don't think that's the one we started in. Pretty sure we started in that one, but now there's an aircraft parked in there. So we have our hangar picked out. All right, so I'm going to try to get this thing in a hover in front of that hangar, and then I'll apply left cyclic and laterally maneuver into it, and then we're going to, I'm sort of pre-planning this in my mind. Then I want to pivot the aircraft so that the nose is pointing forward out of the hangar. I see it's open back, but we're going to try to get it somewhere in the middle, close to the middle, maybe close to the front of the entrance, but underneath nonetheless. Again, not something you would do real world, but that's what's cool about a simulator. Okay, let's slow it down, but not too slow. I want to keep forward movement until I get right about underneath that peak, or close to the peak as I can get. And let's see, so we're going to go forward on the collective a little bit. I got my lateral movement, my cyclic is left. All right, we're underneath. I don't want to get too far. Okay, steady as she goes. Left torque pedal, just a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, kind of over-rotated a little bit there, so I'm going to try to bring that. I like to have it aligned with the hangar. I might not be able to make that quite the way I want to. All right, let's hold that good. We'll bring it down here nice and slowly. So forward on the collective, just a little bit. There's some dust kicking up. Yeah, we're on the ground. All right, so that does it for today's less than perfect flight. But for me, it was fun. Hopefully it was fun for you. Thanks for joining me as always, and we'll see you again on next flight.